Just be careful, he's just there. Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Get a guy off.
Slough don't usually see this kind of madness. It's a quiet town. People go to work, come home, mind their business. But that peace got shattered on the night of October 2nd, 2022. Just after 8:45 PM, over by Waterman Court, everything changed. 21-year-old Kyron Lee was out riding with a friend. That's when a stolen Volkswagen Golf jumped the curb out of nowhere and hit him straight on. The second he hit the ground, 4 masked men came flying out the car. They were holding machetes. No hesitation, no warning. This wasn't some random street beef. This was a planned hit, cold-blooded and caught on CCTV. The motive, gang drama, petty fallouts, and a wicked plan to end Kyron's life. Quick one though, this ain't about glorifying no violence. We're here to lay out the facts, tell the real story, and show how pride, pain, and broken choices turn lives upside down. This is Ends Unshanked, raw truths from the ends, no filters, no hype. Hit that like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. They chased him deep into the estate, cornered him, and stabbed him again and again, leaving him there to bleed out. They vanished just as quick as they came. Not a word said, no face shown, just pure execution. But what rattled everyone wasn't just how fast it happened, it was how organized they were. As police dug deeper over the next few months, a whole underground operation started to unravel. They found encrypted chats, safe houses, getaway routes, even flights out the country. The whole thing stretched from Slough to London to Portsmouth. This wasn't heat of the moment rage, it was teamwork. Everybody had a job, everyone played their part. Young men who thought they could kill and disappear, but the feds were already watching. Kyron was only 21 when they took his life, but that's not where his story started. In Slough, everybody knew Kyron, not as a gangster, but as someone people knew across postcodes. He was confident, sociable, friendly, but round here being known can be dangerous. Friends today turn to enemies tomorrow. Small talks turn into jealousy, and for Kyron, that familiarity put him in the line of fire. The ones who did it weren't your typical gang with flags and colours. They didn't post up on corners or scream out sets, but they moved like a gang, tight circle, strict loyalty, and zero fear of violence. At the centre of it all were men like Elias Al-Mala, Mohammed Al-Gamir, and Kedra Noor. Early 20s, all known to police, tied by family links, criminal circles, and long-running grudges. No one fully knows what sparked the beef with Kyron. Some say drugs, some say money, some say loyalty issues, but whatever kicked it off, they moved calculated. In the weeks before it all went down, they started linking up in private. They used encrypted apps to dodge surveillance, swapped phones. One text later found simply said, "We'll get him when he's moving." Whether Kyron knew it or not, he was already marked. They weren't chatting for fun, they were planning. They stole the Volkswagen Golf, not just to drive, but because it couldn't be traced back. They got their weapons, machetes, chosen specifically to send a message. Big, brutal, intimidating. By the evening of October 2nd, everything was locked in. Kyron and his brethren were cycling down Hillingdon Road. The Golf crept up behind them, sped up, mounted the pavement, and hit Kyron. Even though he was hurt, Kyron managed to stumble away, but the car doors swung open. 4 men jumped out and chased him down. In seconds he was trapped, stabbed repeatedly, left to die on the spot. This wasn't random, it was planned, and that was only the start. The killers didn't act on impulse. What looked like some wild street ambush was actually months of planning, with everyone knowing their role, helping each other stay one step ahead of the feds for a while. Running point in the whole operation was Elias Al-Mala and his younger brother Hamia Al-Mala. Elias was one of the main ones who chased and stabbed Kyron. Hamia didn't pull up to the scene that night, but what he did before and after made him just as involved. He handled logistics, moved money, and helped Elias escape out the country. They both flew to Madrid days later, trying to duck the heat. Others in the crew played their positions too. Farasid Ahmed drove the stolen Golf that smashed into Kyron. He didn't just drive that night after the hit, he had people helping him cover his tracks. Mohammed Abdullah wasn't there for the stabbing, but he was heavily involved in the planning. He met with the team beforehand, then ran off to the Netherlands once the heat turned up, but it didn't save him. He still got extradited back to the UK months later. It wasn't just the ones who pulled up that night, there were others moving behind the scenes. Man like Hamid Jafar and Brian Reesor opened up their flats, giving the suspects places to hide after the murder. They knew exactly what went down but said nothing. This wasn't loyalty, this was straight obstruction of justice. Police called the whole thing one of the most complex setups they'd seen in years. Communication was tight, burner phones, encrypted apps, phones getting swapped constantly to dodge any trace. They even used public Wi-Fi to make calls, kept messages short, coded, straight to the point. But one of their phones slipped through. When police got hold of it, they called it a goldmine. The chats on that phone showed exactly who was moving with who before and after Chiron got killed. They tracked the crew's movements across Slough, London, even Portsmouth. The web was wide. But no matter how slick they thought they were, they couldn't hide everything. CCTV cameras, phone data, hotel records, vehicle tracking. Piece by piece, the full picture started to come together. This wasn't just a simple stabbing. It was a whole criminal operation. Everyone played a role, thinking they could handle their part and keep their hands clean. But while they were moving like ghosts, detectives were right behind them, following every single step. For these men, it wasn't just about revenge, it was about power. In the streets of Slough, respect wasn't only about money, it was fear, it was reach, it was how far you'd go to protect your name. Public violence like this, it sent a clear message: we run this. By autumn 2022, they felt untouchable, moving like bosses, stolen cars, burners, safe spots abroad. They knew how to operate low-key, but what made them dangerous was how far they took it, killing Chiron in broad daylight on a quiet street with people around watching. That showed just how bold they'd become. Violence was their tool. It solved problems, shut down enemies, built their street rep, and the way they moved, machetes, ambushes, tight getaways. This wasn't sloppy anger, it was calculated violence. Police said even if they didn't carry themselves like a proper gang, they moved exactly like one. Everyone had a job, backup plans were set, supporters stood by, ready to help them hide or flee when things got hot. After the murder, they moved fast to cover their tracks. Elias Almala left the UK almost instantly. His brother booked his flights and flew with him straight to Spain. Mohammed Abdullah, who helped plan it all, ran to the Netherlands, thinking crossing borders would slow down the chase. Others stayed closer, but kept their heads down, switched off their phones, cut off links with their people, hid out in safe houses. They thought they were ahead of the game, but what they didn't clock was how much evidence they'd already left behind and how quickly the feds were closing the gap. CCTV, DNA, fingerprints, phone records, the whole structure started falling apart. Every move they made to keep control over the streets, the info, and even the cover-up only added more proof to build the case. The more they ran, the more obvious who was really in charge. At the top, the ones calling the shots and putting in work. Underneath them, the enablers backing them up. All of them tried to rule Slough through fear, but their time was running out fast. As soon as Chiron was murdered, police launched a full-on investigation. They treated it like what it was, a fully organized hit. And once they started digging, cracks started to show everywhere. The first major break came with the car, the stolen Volkswagen Golf. They abandoned it, but they didn't clean it up good enough. Forensics found fingerprints and DNA inside, linking it directly to Farisid Ahmed, the man behind the wheel that night. That one find blew open the whole operation. From there, the net only got wider. CCTV became one of the biggest weapons for the feds. Cameras caught the car moving from Slough to different towns before and after the killing. They caught clips of suspects popping into shops, petrol stations, even checking into hotels. The final part of this whole story played out in Reading Crown Court, where all 11 stood trial for one of the coldest, most calculated murders Slough had ever seen. For Chiron's family, this was almost 2 years of pain, waiting, and endless investigations finally coming to an end. For the defendants, it was the moment where everything they tried to cover up fell apart. The courtroom was packed out, journalists, family members, police, all watching as the charges got read one by one. Murder, conspiracy, causing grievous bodily harm, assisting offenders, perverting the course of justice. The list was long, the prosecution came prepared. They laid out every single move that led to Chiron's death and every attempt made to hide it afterwards. The timeline was clear, the story was solid. At the center of it all were 5 men found guilty of murder. Elias Armala, 22, got life. He must serve at least 24 years. He was one of the main ones who chased Caron down and stabbed him. His role was key. Khaled Noah, 22, also got life, but with a minimum of 26 years. DNA put him directly on a murder weapon. Mohammed Al-Ghamir, 20, was sentenced to life too, with at least 25 years before parole. CCTV and phone data placed him at the scene. Yaqub Musa, 23, was given 23 years and 9 months for murder. Farisid Ahmed, the driver, was just 19, but age didn't save him. He got a minimum of 23 years for his part in the ambush. When the sentences dropped, some family members of the convicted broke down. Some sat silent, but the judge, Mr. Justice Ward, made it clear being young wasn't an excuse. His words hit hard. This was a cold, calculated ambush. The victim was hunted, cornered, and killed. It was not a moment of rage, it was an execution. Beyond the murder charges, others faced justice for helping cover it up. Mohammed Abdullah, 22, who helped plan the hit and ran to the Netherlands, was convicted of conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm. He got 17 years. Hamia Al-Mala, 29, Elias's brother, was sentenced to 2 years and 8 months for assisting an offender after arranging Elias's escape to Spain. Ahmed Hussein, 24, received 4 years for letting suspects hide out in his flat. The judge read out each sentence alongside a breakdown of their role. Whether they were hiding people, buying plane tickets or keeping quiet, it all added up to obstructing justice. Altogether, the group stacked up over 150 years behind bars. For the police, this closed the chapter on Operation Lattice, a heavy investigation that stretched across cities and borders. Built on forensics, digital tracking, and straight up persistence,